A new era for England. The search for Gareth Southgate's successor has begun with these four: Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, Lee Carsley and Mauricio Pochettino under consideration.
Let's head live to Wembley now and join our reporter Paul Gilmore. Paul, great to be with you once again. What do we know about the FA's search for Southgate's successor, the process? How's that going?
Well, Julia, 102 games, almost 8 years, 2 major finals, but Gareth Southgate has managed his last game here at Wembley, and that process is well and truly underway for the FA to try and find a replacement. It's not like it's come as a major surprise for them, because, of course, they would have been under no illusions that there was always a chance Gareth Southgate could walk away after this tournament, regardless of the outcome. That is exactly what's happened. So they will have been planning for this scenario for some time, and ideally they would like to make an appointment in time for that opening Nations League game against the Republic of Ireland in Dublin on the 7th of September, although they do have possible interim options in mind if the process doesn't move as quickly as they would like. And in terms of who could potentially get the job, well, there are no restrictions, we understand, on whether that will necessarily be an English manager. I think what the FA are looking for is to go through the process with a certain number of managerial candidates and pick the strongest person for the job. So no guarantee that the manager will necessarily be English, but certainly they will go through the process and they will keep an open mind on the best possible candidate.
And tell us about the four on the shortlist then that we know about, Paul.
Yeah, some names emerging already, some names on the FA's radar, led by Eddie Howe, the Newcastle manager, somebody who immediately comes to mind for the way he has operated and worked within English football over the last few years. Whether it's a realistic target, that remains to be seen, because it's a very difficult contract situation to get him away from Newcastle. Maybe some issues around wages as well, given that he was on almost double what Gareth Southgate was on here with England. So that may be a tricky one. He has said in the recent past, that international football maybe not quite on his radar at the moment as he concentrates on club football. We will hear from him at some point this week as Newcastle begin their pre-season preparations. So it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on whether he thinks international football still be further down the line, or if he is in any way open to it. And if that is the case, I wonder, will that give the FA enough encouragement? But certainly he is one of the names on their list at this moment in time. Other managers include out-of-work managers, Graham Potter and Mauricio Pochettino. Potter for the work he did at Brighton, and of course Pochettino towards the end at Chelsea, although it didn't work out there, had Chelsea playing some good football, and many people were surprised that he left that role. If you look back to 2016, 2017, around that time, Pochettino was getting a lot of praise for the sheer number of England debutants around that time that had played under him. Harry Kane got his first cap with England while Pochettino was his manager. The same with Kieran Trippier. He's managed others like Luke Shaw, Cole Palmer, Kyle Walker as well, so he will know a lot of those players already. But of course, those are established managers, maybe not known to the FA. If the FA want to go down the same route as proved so successful for them when they appointed Southgate, they could look no further than Lee Carsley, who is again on their radar because of the work he's been doing with the 21s, knowing the system. Is it building up towards that kind of appointment? One other thing overnight, actually, no confirmation from anyone here on reports emerging that Sarina Wiegman, the Lionesses manager, would be considered for this role, but certainly no denial either. We're reminded she has a contract until 2027 and that she's very happy in her current job. And she herself, speaking around the goalless draw against Sweden in the last 24 hours, said, "I think it's really inappropriate to have that conversation. I'm with the Lionesses and very happy." So I don't think the links will have done any of the party any harm there with Sarina Wiegman, but certainly an interesting one to keep an eye on as well. But I think with international football, you always do wonder, people talking about Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. I guess the reality with international football has always been that top calibre of manager has always tended to go for, excuse me, for club football at this moment in time. So we will see as this process develops. As mentioned before, in an ideal world, they would like to do that before the Republic of Ireland game on the 7th of September.
Paul, thank you very much. So we're going to take a look at these four candidates that we know are on the FA shortlist. We're going to begin with Eddie Howe, who took Bournemouth from League Two all the way to the Premier League. His next job was then the move to Newcastle. He guided them to a fourth-place finish and the 2023 AFL Cup final. Now, how about Graham Potter? Well, he won plaudits for his stint at Brighton, of course. His side were praised for their style of play. His work at Brighton saw him appointed Chelsea head coach. He was sacked, though, less than 7 months in charge. Now, if the FA wants somebody who knows the young players very well, they could go for under-21 manager Lee Carsley. He led England to Euro success last year, beating Spain 1-0 in the final. And here's what the FA would get if they appointed Pochettino. Mauricio led Tottenham to the Champions League final in 2019, won Ligue 1 with Paris Saint-Germain and led Chelsea to a sixth-place finish last season before being sacked. Our chief reporter, Kaveh Solokol, spoke to Pochettino about the prospect of one day being England manager at the Qatar World Cup back in 2022.
Is international management something that you have ever considered, or is your heart still with club?
Yes, at the moment wasn't under my consideration to work, but now I think yes, I am open. Why not? Yes, of course. We are still young, full of energy. Day by day, I like the adrenaline to train, to be involved. Maybe the national team is different job, but yes, why not? If it's not next, maybe in the future.
And would it have to be Argentina, or could you see yourself managing another country as well?
No, exclusive. What I want is only Argentina, if not no another country. Why not?
Whoever's going to get England to play the best football and help us be successful is who we should hire. And that's down to the powers that be who are making those decisions. But for me, it's about who's going to make us get over the finish line. Gareth did a great job to get us to 2 finals, semi-final, quarter-finals. Now it's the next step. We need to find who that person is for the next step. And that's the £1 million question, isn't it? But they're going to find out who that person is. They'll be doing their due diligence. And I'm sure that they're looking through every nook and cranny to make sure that whenever they make that decision, it's the right one. Of course, Jurgen would be a great candidate, as would, many managers around. But I think it's more about what is going to be a perfect marriage. And as I said, Jurgen right now, I don't think he's ready to take another job in my estimations, but I could be wrong. Obviously, the England job is a huge privilege for anybody to take around the world globally. So I'm sure there'll be many people who would love to take the job.
As Sturridge said there, the £1 million question, the search for Gareth Southgate's successor, and understandably, it dominates the back pages this morning. How about Jurgen Klopp taking over? Well, according to the Daily Telegraph, the former Liverpool manager would not be available to replace Southgate in time for the start of England's World Cup qualifiers because he has no intention to return for another 12 months. The Independent, meanwhile, claimed the FA would consider the idea of appointing an interim boss in order to try and persuade Pep Guardiola to become England manager if he decides to leave Manchester City at the end of next season. As for what next for Southgate, well, the Daily Star write that he wants the Manchester United job. Their chief sports writer, Jeremy Cross, claims Sir Jim Ratcliffe would have got rid of Erik ten Hag at the end of last season and appointed Southgate instead, but he couldn't because Southgate was leading England at the Euros. The Daily Mail, though, they have a different view. They report that Manchester United would be highly unlikely to swoop for Southgate, even if the club were to endure a bad start to the season and part ways with Erik ten Hag.
We know the FA are not restricting their search to someone English to replace Southgate. How much consideration should be given to a potential manager's nationality then, and even their gender? Well, here's how it was discussed on Back Pages tonight.
My instinctive reaction then is that it feels like it should be an English manager managing an English team, and the concept of international football is the best that England can produce against the best that the rest of the world can produce. And for me, that would include the coach and the manager. But the rules are the rules, and the rules state that you can look elsewhere and you can cast the net a little bit wider. So if that's what other countries are able to do, and other countries certainly will do, then you could argue that England would be disadvantaging themselves by not doing the same.
No, Serena Wiegman said it's inappropriate to talk about her taking Southgate's role, but she has won a tournament for the country.
I think we're years away from that happening, but I actually think in years to come it won't seem such a strange idea. Why not? It's any sort of convention that stops women managing men's teams, because men have managed women's teams, so there's not a huge amount of difference there. Probably in 30 years' time, we'll be amazed people even having these conversations.
Well, it's an interesting debate. Here are the thoughts of Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher.
Where England go next, I don't know. There are some obvious contenders. I think Graham Potter will get mentioned and Eddie Howe will get mentioned. I think it will definitely be an English manager. I think when you think about St George's Park and the move there a few years ago, it was to promote and encourage and develop English coaching. I do believe the FA will think properly about that, and the fact that to actually appoint an international manager would be wrong, that we need to develop English coaches, because it's very difficult for English coaches to get jobs at top Premier League clubs. So to actually then take that job away from an English person and give it to an international manager doesn't seem right. So I think we will be talking about Graham Potter, Eddie Howe and candidates like that.
Do you have a preference now?
No, I mean both are good coaches, both are good managers, and I think it's more about sort of, if you like, how they pick up the baton from Gareth, get those players ready for the next tournament, which is going to be tough.
Eddie Howe is the front runner by a long way. I've obviously seen the other 3 or 4 names that have been mentioned, but I think Eddie Howe, he would bring to England what Gareth brings in terms of how he deals with the media. He's very, calm, collected. I'm not a believer in foreign managers managing England. It's nothing against foreigners. I think what foreign managers and players have done to the Premier League is amazing. It basically made what our league is today, which is the envy of the world. We're not an emerging nation, we're England. And I know we've only won 1 trophy, but other countries on our level we see, whether that's Italy, Spain, Germany, these type of nations, they don't have foreign managers. We don't need a foreign manager. We've done it before. I was involved in those times under Sven and Fabio Capello. It wasn't great. It was not a patch on what Gareth Southgate's done.